Move right along to our next presentation, which is a mouthful and therefore worth looking at. It's the strategic procurement and the transformation of the strategic procurement function within financial services. And we have Bruce Kelly, Managing Director of FSOkx, to address us. So Bruce, welcome.
While he's pulling up the presentation, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. Most of you probably never heard of FSOkx. We're a startup professional services firm. Started about 6 months ago, but I'm going to speak to you today from a knowledge base of 25 or 30 years experience from working with clients in transforming finance and procurement operations and functions from both KPMG and the Hackett Group. So I'll be sharing with you some information and sharing with you my perspectives. The topic was next generation in strategic procurement transformation within financial services. What I'm going to try to cover today a little bit is I'm going to share with you a little bit about what's happening in that marketplace, what's emerging there in outsourcing of procurement services, and then share with you a little bit about some of the key tendencies and strategies that companies are utilizing. What are some of the key drivers of performance in that area? So one of the first key tenets, one of the first things I'd like to share with you a little bit is when we look at the outsourcing, any type of outsourcing arrangement is clearly to be successful has to be able to benefit both parties to the exchange, right? And the market is cluttered with examples of outsourcing attempts that have not lived up to expectations, right? So I think one of the first things that's important in looking at any business transformation initiative or outsourcing initiative is clearly defining your objective and expectations. And understanding those objectives and expectations between the partners is going to be critical to the success of the endeavor. So what's driving this demand and change in procurement and areas? Well, obviously we've talked about a lot about it today, that some of the big issues that are going to be driving performance and the demand for transformation in the procurement space is both competitive and economic forces. CFOs and CPOs are under consistent pressure to deliver greater results at lower cost with higher value. Right? So many of you probably see that today. A recent survey indicated about 80% of top executives in financial services indicated that last year in 2009, about 75% of those organizations implemented some type of strategic cost reduction initiatives in response to the changes in the economic conditions and the environmental climate. Many of those CFOs and CPOs also today are expecting that many of those activities will continue going forward into 2010, and almost 70% of them admitted that most of the actions and activities that they had taken in 2009 in response to cost reduction and improvement in performance were more tactical in nature, things like staffing reductions, headcount reductions, cost reductions, benefit reductions, those type of things. They hadn't really addressed some of the strategic issues around transforming processes or looking at better business process outsourcing or looking at strategic sourcing alternatives. So I think there's also a growing awareness out there that as you begin to look at the challenges facing these chief procurement officers, there are 2 or 3 primary challenges. Obviously, cost and performance is one we talked about. The second is really looking at how do you manage and drive your organization forward when you might continue to have aging resources and resources that are no longer up to date with what's happening in the marketplace and skills that are no longer relevant in the marketplace in some cases. And the third issue is really enabling technologies. The pace of technology is changing so rapidly. How do you make the investments in order to be able to keep up with the change of technology and be able to capitalize on those advancements in technology and automation? There's a growing awareness out there that there's one of the key opportunities, and maybe to be able to jump over some of those hurdles, is to actually look at partnering with other organizations in an outsourcing environment. I think important to look at before we sit and talk about any directions on where are the organizations going or what's the right direction. I think Stephen Beard talked a little bit earlier today about